this, we've got a wonderful performance happening. So yeah, what I was trying to say was this is the sort of quite extraordinary moment when you go up above the cemetery wall and the site starts to sort of reveal itself. And, you know, it's a wonderful thing to work with, because really we just had to show it. We just had to show the cemetery to best effect. And so we're going to stand at the top of the stair. This is where that split level occurs that we mentioned downstairs. So you have the living room space, which I'm just going to pan across. And you might wonder why there's skylights as well as windows. Well, one thing we wanted to do, make sure the light was very, very clean. And the interesting thing about light coming from trees, it's sort of obvious, but it's green. And if we hadn't had the skylights, the space would have had a greeny feel to it. And so this is the space that's taller that I mentioned, that Rana uses as a workspace and a gallery. And I quite like this because although we're in the domestic, the sort of private part of the home, it's like a bit of the studio has conceptually leapt up.
I'm homeschooling to be able to manage everything, and these watercolours are, I haven't been able to kind of let go of these yet, so they've been up on the wall for a while now.
And I wouldn't say, I personally love the sort of looseness of this, that it feels informal, I suppose, when, I think you can see that on this wall too. It feels to me that this is a gallery, but it's also a studio. It's also, a place for the kids. Another thing that is always wonderful, I think, to work with is nature. And I think increasingly in our lives, this is something that's been showing up for a long time, I think, and it's probably become even more exacerbated in the current condition, is that, we need nature to help us, and we need to treat nature better, because look what it does, look how it helps us out. And if you can imagine that, it will be, you can walk up the counter basically, but it just flows. And I think that's something, again, that if the spaces feel like they flow, then you can reinterpret them. There's something quite interesting about that. If the kitchen sort of slides into the living room, and the living room has artwork and the kitchen has artwork, although there is definition between them, you're able to sort of keep slurring the boundary, I would say.
Yeah, I love the idea that there is not that much of a separation. I mean, we've separated the bedrooms, but I love this space being open, the fact that I can see the children when I'm working, I can hear them. That was really important for me, to feel kind of that I'm still kind of connected to them. This is a piece of work that I've been kind of playing with at home, and really kind of enjoyed seeing the reflection of the cemetery on it as well.
We created this bridge experience exactly so the slightly smaller people in the family, in the community, could experience the garden and the building. So where we had that sort of, we have to do a little focus. So where we had those incredible views onto the cemetery, here it's much more about a closer view onto the building. So they have really these extraordinary views, if we can, will it work going in, of the trees. It's really quite mind-blowing. Just there's a pathway that goes through the trees. And so all of a sudden you do see people out there, people riding their bikes and people walking. And it's quite surreal, actually, isn't it? And I love that. It doesn't seem quite... Okay, let's see if we can... I did go to... Just a sneak preview of the Rana Begum bathroom.
This is the bathroom that's not quite finished yet.
There you go. I might have to just stand here.
The bathroom is not quite finished yet, but we hope to finish it soon.
And that will be a completely clear view, again, of the forest.
Oh, hello Rohana. Nice to see you. Thank you for letting us in. We're now in the house, and in the first space that you come into, which is actually a garage. It's one of those things that Geoffrey Bawa did to invent the notion of the garage that you could display in. And sitting here right in front of us is his 1935 Rolls Royce, in which he went to school from Lancaster Gate, where he lived at the time, to Bedford Square, to the Architectural Association. He had bought it from a couple of old ladies from Brighton, is how Professor Robson puts it in his book. And then, of course, used it quite a bit here in Sri Lanka, and eventually the last time it had a public outing was for the state opening of the new parliament in 1982. It's still in running order, and of course we hardly take it out. In this room are a whole lot of wonderful artifacts which he decorated his garage with, and I'll hand you on to Shari, who will take you through the pieces that are around here.
Thank you, Channa. So right now we're looking at a Tree of Life batik by Ina de Silva. Ina is one of Jeffrey's clients. He built her house in 1963, but also she then became a lifelong friend and collaborator. And we, in this garage space, there's a number of Bauer's kind of favorite pieces and favorite artists. So here we're looking at Saskia Pintelon's, a piece by Saskia Pintelon. She lived 6 years in Cinnamon Hill, and Jeffrey collected her works avidly. In this little nook, we also have 2 chairs in the kind of classic Bauer fashion of combining very contemporary pieces with antiques, like the chairs that you see there. And the chair is a sample of a piece done for the Kandarama Hotel, which he did in the 90s. It's a reworking of a design by the Australian designer Russell Hall. But what you can see, the original was made of this kind of corrugated sheet. And what you see is Bauer sort of reinventing this piece with these ribbons of metal. And there's one more piece in this room that we want to look at, which is this amazing sunburst piece, another batik piece also done by Ina de Silva. We'll just walk up to it and look a little bit closer at the detail. Ina worked with a studio of amazing batik designers and makers in the hills of Sri Lanka, in Aluvihare. Back to Channa.
One of the things you notice about this corridor is that there's not one single window to bring light in. It's all about these wonderful skylights that you have right across the corridor, including this wonderful little skylight that brings in light above this Lucky Senanayaka sculpture and onto this platform on which his successive Dalmatians would sit and greet him as he came back home after his various trips. And at the very end of this corridor is this wonderful little pond and a horse that seems to nod towards the place where you need to turn. But this is also a kind of anteroom to the main space that Baba used, and it's full of a group of wonderful artifacts which Shari will take you through.
Thank you. So here we are looking at a chair that was made, a sample chair made for the Benthuta Beach Hotel. Next to it, a table made by Jeffrey's brother Bevis. You can see this leaf imprint. So that was a design of tables that Bevis worked on with Donald Friend, the Australian artist. And on top of it, you see a fascinating glass and lead sculpture by Lucky Senanayaka, named after Debussy's piece La Cathédrale Engloutie, which this piece used to lie in his office, in Bauer's office on Alfred House Gardens, on his table, and apparently it was one of his favorite works, and he was reluctant to even lend it to Lucky for his own exhibitions because he liked it that much. Here we have a piece by Ritin Mazumdar, the Indian textile designer who Bauer really loved his works, and Ritin, of course, went on to make a lot of amazing pieces for Fab India. We'll see more of those. And here you also see the Barcelona chair reworked by Jeffrey during the time that Sri Lanka had a closed economy in the 60s and the 70s. And we'll see as we walk through the house lots of these kind of classic modern pieces reworked and made locally and upholstered in a textile by Barbara Sansoni for Barefoot, one of Jeffrey's favorites, this one called Jack and Ebony. And if we just turn around right behind us, what we see is this incredible tapestry of a textile that Jeffrey bought when he was in Bali. And again, used in that way that we were talking about, where it becomes the wall itself. And maybe, Channa, you'll talk a little bit about the space.
Well, the space itself, of course, the tapestry is behind the very blank facade that we saw in the beginning. And the tapestry creates a kind of softness to what would have been a very plain wall, which overlooks the street. So instead of having windows looking out on the street, he has this wonderful sort of set of fabrics stitched together to create a soft wall. And that soft wall gently becomes a curtain and eventually becomes a bamboo tat, which brings most of the light into this room. All of these are openable, and if you look right across here, there's another set of doors and windows which have louvers, which also sets out a wonderful set of cross ventilation in this space. The door that you see here and the staircase you see beyond, the door that you see here had been designed by his friend Ismat Rahim, made out of aluminum and beaten aluminum and decorated with gold leaf and gold and silver leaf. And right through there were 2 bedrooms in which his guests would stay. And right by the entrance to the bedroom is a series of wonderful architectural drawings done by Barbara Sanzoni, combined with a beautiful old piece which sits as a kind of console between 2 Eero-Saarinen chairs. And right next to us here is a wonderful Thornet chair again, an original, and more Saarinen furniture combined with his own designs and a much more traditional chair that you see in the corner.
How you doing? This is my neighborhood. We're up in Beverly Hills, and there's so much construction going on here right now. It's just crazy. All right, I think I'll get started. I'm David Al-Hadif. Thank you so much to Architectural Digest India for having me, and I'm so excited to show you my home. I'm starting outside because I wanted to show you guys a little bit of the entrance. It's a really discreet entrance, and we're here on this residential block in Beverly Hills, so the house really hides itself from the neighbors. And it was originally designed in the early 70s by a lesser-known architect, Raul Garduno. And it was designed for a single family. And it's been pretty much untouched since it was originally created. So we're the second residents of this home. And we left it pretty much as is. So as I show you around, there's so much original, and that's what we love about the place. I live here with my husband, Jason.
Hi, AD, come on in.
Hi, Jason. And I'll give you guys a little view. And someone is noting that this is the Casa Perfect house in LA, and that's true. The chairs here are by Demore. They're totally amazing. And these are really cool glass objects by an artist, a Seattle-based artist, John Hogan. And they look solid, but it's an illusion. These are called water lenses, and John actually blows the glass and then creates it so that they're filled with water. And then that's creates the perception of a solid form. But if these were solid, they would be so heavy. One, we probably couldn't have even gotten them on the table. They might have even broken the table. And you couldn't get this incredible gradient of color that he manages to achieve. And this is cool. I love this part of them. They're totally they have this great optical illusion effect, which is super funky and fun. So they're fun. Great for the kids, great for the collector. I love that hybrid. These mirrors are a project we've been working on with these New York artists, Chen and Kai Williams, who when they were out hiking, let me show you around a little more. Aren't these doors incredible? Let me show you the doors before we go, because I just love that as a design detail. I think it's so pretty. And there's that popcorn ceiling. As I said, the house is original. We left it pretty much untouched. So whether you love it or hate it, there it is. I actually have to admit secretly I love it. This is the master bedroom. And it's a great space. It's huge, actually. I mean, it's huge for me. I lived in New York, so coming here was like a real shock to have space in rooms. The ceramics here are by Ronaldo Sanguino. He's a Venezuelan artist who lives and works in New York, and they're just really incredible hand-painted forms. He's obviously very influenced by graffiti and street art, and he creates all of these works, one of a kind, in his studio, and then paints them in these super abstract, beautiful ways. And I think they're just incredible and a really important part of our collection. These ceramics are by Jonathan Cross, a Los Angeles artist, who kind of creates these big, brutal forms and then cuts them with a machete, which is a really violent, kind of angry activity. But this guy is like such a lamb. I mean, you would never know, you know, he's so sweet. And then he wood fires them out in the desert. So he gets these incredible finishes on the ceramic, all created just by how they're placed in the kiln, which is amazing. This is like the reason I got this house, was for this moment. I love this so much. So it's the master bathroom, the original jacuzzi tub, which we've tried. But it's not great, so we don't really use it. But for what we do in this house, for what the Future Perfect does in this house, this is exactly the kind of space that we're obsessed with. The wall covering is this beautiful wash of color with gold leaf that's dripping down into the floor, which is original. And then we also gold leafed the ceiling. The light is by a New York artist, David Weeks. And the ceramic is by this Japanese fisherman who's become an incredible ceramicist, this is an amazing example of his work. And as I said, we really use every part of the house to showcase our program. This vessel is by Eric Reinstead, who's again a Los Angeles ceramicist. There's so many amazing creative people here in LA, and this project has afforded us such an incredible opportunity to work with them. And Eric makes all of these by hand, and he's really so precise in how he fabricates. And the finish on this is not a glaze, it's actually a white glaze that he then sands back to create this really, really special finish. And they always have names for the houses, and I called this the diorama house, because really, like, the way that you view this home is as if every room is in a diorama. And I thought that was kind of great, especially for what we do. Here in the dining room, we're showing work from artist Matthew Day Jackson, who does these incredible artworks that are all like laser cut, collaged, mixed material, painted, lead, fabric works. And he designed a furniture collection for us that he's called Wonky, which this is a good example of it. And the Wonky collection is made out of cardboard that's then fiberglassed and auto body shop painted. So it's these really incredible bright colors, and the forms are super, super crazy and like funny. And I think they're just amazing. He's done these incredible chairs. And this vase is by Cody Hoyt, who's a New York artist. And all of this is different colors of ceramic. So it's not painted. It's actually ceramics. And we have in our atrium here, we have the neon lamp by Jochen Holtz, who's a British glass artist. And then as we go over here into the kitchen, I don't know about you guys. Oh, hey, Jason, getting us some coffee. Yeah. But I've been baking bread in quarantine, and I don't know. I put some bread in this morning. It's okay. It's not my best, but it's not my worst. And let me show you guys a bit of the garden. And again, like I said, this is where it's going to get a little crazy with the internet, but we're gonna try it. Okay, so bear with me a bit. These are by an artist, Magnus Maxine, and she calls these ceramic pieces her flowers. So she signs them Magnus Flowers. And she's a ceramicist and a poet. And I think these are really beautiful. They're part of what we're calling a poolside exhibition right now. And all of her work has been kind of presented by the pool, and I think it's really beautiful to see these as flowers, or to perceive them as flowers, and have them growing up out of the garden. So it's it's just another blue sky, sunny day here in LA. I don't know what else you expect. The truth is, it does actually rain here, but not around now. So we have this great pool and this garden, which is so cool. Yeah, I see a comment. This is the part I love. I agree. I love it too. And all these amazing planting beds and sculptures. And this is such a great vantage point of the house too. And you can really see now, I'm not sure if it's coming out clear on the live, but you can really see the crescent shape of the home from this perspective. So you really understand now, this whole house follows that single hallway inside. And then from the exterior, you really have a sense of the curvature, which is amazing. Yeah, I know, I wish I could take a dip in the pool. I don't know if it would be so cute for our live though. So I want to show you this. So I want to show you guys the Elvis Presley estate. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, so if we go here, it's a little smoggy and foggy today, but I'm gonna try. So yeah, there it is. You can just barely see it. I wish it was a little clearer for you guys, but that is the Elvis Presley estate that we lived in, which was amazing. So that's where Elvis used to live, which I think is kind of fun. I'm gonna turn this back around again. Okay, I'll give you guys another view of the house.
Welcome everybody. I'm doing something that I never thought I'll ever do. But when Architectural Digest was so nice to me, inviting me to Bombay and featuring me, I thought I'd show my gratitude. And that's the reason why I'm opening my doors to everybody. I'm doing something I've never done before. Enjoy. Now we come to my garden, so-called garden. I paved it because I knew that grass would never grow. And I got these wonderful stones that came from a British period hospital that was demolished. And then here, this is my outdoor entertaining area. And I recently put up that beautiful mirror that I bought in Paris. It's a butcher's mirror. And here again, you see some finials that I bought in Paris. And thank God I've got all this wonderful moss growing on it already. And so this is a space that I use a lot for entertaining, because as you will see, as I will show you, that my former dining room is a bit too formal, and I have very stiff dinners there, but I do love having dinners there. And this is another area that I sit in quite a lot, which is the veranda of my house. And there you see paintings all by Saskia Pentelon, and I'm very proud to tell you that I have one of the biggest collections in the world of Saskia. I collected her since 1987. And now we come into my living room, where the vehicle of Ganesh, which is the rats and my secret friend, welcomes you. And you have this wonderful painting which I call the Mona Lisa of Sri Lanka, done by Dumit Kulasekara. And then you have these, where are we? Now on the sofa here, I actually put these cushions here to complement the painting that was done by, again, Mahin Pereira. I mean, I love his contemporary work, and it works well. I didn't want any of my precious paintings on anyone's face as you came in here. Here, I've got two wonderful mirror frames that I bought in Paris, and here sits
A drawing.
Can you see?
A drawing, yes.
The George Key drawing from 1954.
Yes.
And then here again you see a collection of memorabilia and this painting that I commissioned Jagat Ravindra to do. And here everywhere you'll see boxes that are all calamander. I have a weakness for calamander. And this cupboard here is also calamander, and so is the bench. Over there. This wonderful table, which is rosewood, is presumably the table of Lord Louis Mountbatten when he was here in Sri Lanka. And these chandeliers are Venetian, and I bought them in Portofino, and I shipped them over here. This is an old shop fitting that was my ceramic ware. All this is Chinese, a lot of it is Dutch period. And then we have this wonderful contrast, again, of a Mahin Pereira artwork, which is at the end of the table. And then here we come to a collection of different art from Anup Vega, Shanadanan, Lionel Wendt, Anup Vega, Ivan Pires, Richard Gabriel. So it's a combination
all modern of Sri Lankan.
Yeah, modern, yeah. And then this is Sanjeeva Kumara, an artist who I started. And then here you have this wonderful gift to me from Saskia Pentalon, a portrait of me. Now we come into the gallery where in this particular room I have essentially the 43 group, but it is overpowered by all the huge Lionel Wendt collection I have. Paintings over there are from George Claassen. Then the others are Dan Nyagala, Ivan Pires, and Manjusri. Manjusri is also a very important member of the 43 group. And this is also Manjusri. Some of them have been painted before I was born. And now you come up to the
Study here.
rooftop. And here you see works by Saskia. And the first work that I ever bought from Saskia, which is here. And that I bought in 1988. And here is another Jagat Ravindra. And my lawn is over here. I don't know what sort of golf I can play on that.
Hi, this is Roshni Vadera. I'm the director of Vadera Art Gallery. I'm in Delhi, and today I'm doing a house tour for Architectural Digest. So this is my home. I live in a farmhouse in Delhi. Very lucky to have a lot of space during the lockdown. This is the end. Okay, I'm just going to turn the screen around. So this is the entrance to my home. There's a large Ravinder Reddy sculpture at the entrance. We showed this work in 2006 in London at the Economist Plaza. I absolutely love the dramatic face, and I decided I wanted it in my home. So my home was actually designed around a lot of the art that I have. The architect is Ashwin Alva. And then this is a masterpiece by Hussain, an artist who my family's been very close to. He's been a grandfather to me. He was like a grandfather to me. And this is a wax and watercolor from the 1960s, a work that we had at the gallery, and I absolutely loved it. I had to convince my father for many years to let me have it. So we always overpriced the work so that no one could afford to buy it. And now it's in my home. And this is my living room. And this is a cluster of Nalini Malani Tondi works, reverse on acrylic. It's very interesting because these are actually inspired by Bhupen Kakkar, an artist who I greatly admire. And this was actually from our show in 2014, I think. And yeah, I love this cluster of works. It took me some time to get these home, and I'm glad I managed to. This is a small sculpture piece by Talur, which I got from India Art Fair last year. And this is another one of my favorite works. It's by Sudhir Patwardhan, one of his typical urban cityscapes, a work that I absolutely love. I think you'll enjoy the depth and perspective in this work that Sudhir has managed to get. I love the detailing, love the figures in the balconies. And yeah, as you can see, there's lots of different work that he's done. I think this work took him a long time to make. And then next to it are two beautiful watercolors by Arpita Singh and Ghulam Muhammad Sheikh. This one is personally signed to me and my husband. It says for Roshni and Harsh. This is a sculpture vase by Sudarshan Shetty. I got this at a charity exhibition. I've enjoyed picking up works from unusual places, different places. Some works I wouldn't have access to otherwise. And so this was a lovely piece that I got from a charity exhibition. And then over here is another Talur sculpture, which is actually a miniature of the large monumental piece that he had done at Kochi Biennale, which had multiple figures. This one has single figures. And this was again a work that I got from an exhibition in Goa, I remember. Absolutely fell in love with it. And this is a piece by a student artist that I got from the Students' Biennale in Kochi. Again, an unusual place to find a work, but I loved it. I reached out to the curators. They put me in touch with the artist, and I managed to get this work. This is a sculpture by Ramachandran, another artist who we represent in the gallery. This is a beautiful cabinet that I got from Kinkini in Bangalore, and it's like one of those limited edition, hand-painted furniture pieces. I love it. I don't think they exist anymore, unfortunately. I wish they would come back. And this is a Anju Dodia work that she gifted to me on my wedding anniversary, or on my wedding actually. So it has my wedding date, 5th December. And I think the pairing with the cabinet looks superb. And this is a old Persian carpet, 100-year-old antique carpet. Love this piece as well. This is a Bharti Khair Bindi work, got it many years ago. This piece over here is actually I got this at the AD Fair, which is quite exciting. I got it from Philippe's Antiques. They had a booth across from ours, and it's one of those winged apsara from an old temple, and I use it as a bookend. Love this piece as well. And then this is a Mrinalini sculpture from our 2007 show. Beautiful bronze. Love all her sculptures, of course. And then this is Jitish Kalat, 4 sleeping figures. In fact, this is placed on the double height. And I love how the architect was quite inventive and how this work could be placed. It's unusual because when you look up at the high ceiling, you suddenly find these figures sitting over there, and they look quite amazing actually, made of dental plaster. This is my much loved bookshelf, which is really fun actually. I have some artworks in it as well. This is a work that Raza gave me when I was at his studio in Paris. It says love. And then this is a portrait of Hussein by my father, which is also really special to me. And this is a wall of beautiful drawings, old works that I've got. This is an Amrita Shergill from, I think, 1937. These are Ramkumar drawings. And this is from Hussein. Happy birthday to me in 1997. And then this was to me in Bern when we went to see a Paul Klee exhibition together in 2006. And this is an old Ram Kumar canvas. This was a study for a large work that was to be gifted from the Indian Prime Minister to the Pakistani Prime Minister, which he made in front of us and then gave it to me. This was actually my wedding invite, which he made for me when I hadn't met Harsh. So if you look closely, there's a question mark under my name because Harsh wasn't in my life at that time. And then unfortunately, Hussein left before I could get it completed by him. So we had to digitally impose the alphabets for the wedding card. And that's another Hussein watercolor, a gift for my 18th birthday. And that is an Arpita drawing. And then there's a Gigi photograph. And there is an old Sousa drawing, one of my favorite artists, 1964. And this is recently from Ramachandran to me. He was showing me how my father draws, which is quite fun, a fun lunch in the gallery.
The house is very much a courtyard house, although not fully enclosed. And so we enter from the east into the first building, which is also meant to be for the older generation. It's a 3-generation house, and we are entering in what you could call a one-room house. The east here and the west, which you sort of see in between the mango, are both only one room deep. There are no corridors, and it sort of condenses the life into a single room. This here is the dining room. It's also the lobby, because we just stepped through the main door. But it's also a veranda. As you can see, all the windows open up to that courtyard. And it's large enough to allow for different activities. We've put in a large dining table, which we couldn't use with this virus thing for guests, but we could bake and work and study. And both ends of the dining room have a little take on plantation or botanical art. This is Karl Blossfeld, early 19th century. And it's nice because it speaks to the decorative arts as much as it talks to the architectural eye. If you were, like me, a very naive architect, you would see very fertile 20th century high-rises, quite fertile here too, or the Gothic, or maybe British tech, or the French Renaissance. But it's important to us because it does speak to the structuring of spaces and the structuring of decor as well. Let me take you around a little. We've got a little puja area, and then the pantry counter. That's the door we just stepped through. And then facing the Blossfeld here on this side is a, I think, very early 19th century embroidery, which is really very similar in the way it observes nature and turns it into graphic and ornamental pleasures. Those you would add, each Diwali maybe one. And here Malu, my wife's grandmother, has sculpted her ancestors, who are now in a focused manner really surveying our dinners. And this frame really maybe captures what I was after. It's a well-structured building and it has industrial charm. We used a lot of very humble materials, ready-made industrial materials like this unpainted aluminium, and steel windows and very simple slate stones. But this tree really, or both trees, are then becoming much more sculptural than any of the architecture, and in a way more important. And now you can see we're trying to do inside similar things we do outside. So the room is structured very, very simply. These long vertical grooves in between that plywood paneling, and that carries on in the fenestration. And then it all gets broken up. What outside you would break it up with the trees, inside it's broken up with the furniture and the colors and the art decor. So that really try to play up the contrast. And the furniture has become a bit of a preoccupation in our studio too in the last couple of years. A lot of this is designed by our studio. So are those two chairs there, and they're upholstered in a custom work fabric, and by my wife's company, Malu Vastakala, is doing that, and maybe she can elaborate a little bit. Let me call her. Malu, you want to come and talk a little about the embroidery?
Hello, Andy. So I just wanted to talk to you about these armchairs that were designed by Niels and which are upholstered with hand embroidery that's made by my company Vastrakala. If you look at the seat, the design on the seat is an exact replica of a pattern of a dress, the lower garment of a male Phoenician sculpture. That is the source of this design, and you can see that it is the sort of lower garment. I liked very much this little nod to fashion, which interests me, and as a subject, and which forms a large part of the work that our company does. Also, like fashion, embroidery, hand embroidery is very, very adaptable when it comes to also projects for interiors and furniture especially, because just like an haute couture dress, hand embroidery can be designed for any size, scale, or pattern of your furniture, which means that unlike, say, a running meter fabric, which will fall as it falls, in a hand embroidery, what you will have is you can achieve is a precision so that your pattern fits exactly into your piece of furniture, as you can see here, or as you can see on this part. So once we had the design, agreed on the design, so to speak, it was left to see, what kind of techniques one could look at. And the techniques that we selected was what is called a carpet stitch, which is basically, like its name suggests, very much made in a way like a carpet. These are formed by stitching dozens of points that are very, very closely stitched together, and all of it is done within the pattern, so to speak. You cover the entire design, and right at the end, you start with a very small pair of scissors, you start cutting the loops that are formed. And when you're doing that, the skill and the dexterity comes from the fact that the craftsman also achieves this kind of bumpy and moldy layers that you can see on it. This particular piece was done with a cotton thread, as we are on a cotton velvet base. And as you can see, from this, you can see also the same thing that we've continued to the other pair. So one color on this, and we chose a single thread for the other color.
When you start, responding to art, you invariably come to that point of judgment by which you say that what was the merit, what was that moment that kind of took you into the transaction or into the purchase. And I always say that art is man's surplus emotional energy. So whether it is the energy of the artist or whether it's the energy of the viewer, when those emotional energies tend to sort of collaborate and meet at a point where the artist is not there, perhaps even in the gallery, to explain his work, but it begins to talk to you silently, and it takes you not into a zone of awe or saying, oh my God, and start checking the price and saying, will I be able to afford it? Oh no, it must be very expensive. Instead of all that, if it can silence you, if it can intrigue you, and if it can take you into another realm, then I have always thought that when I'm in that space, I tell myself that this is art, and therefore in that moment I will tell the artist or the gallery that I'd love to acquire this. Enter the dining room, which has been specially laid out for you. We're still going to eat in front of the TV, but we had to put on a show so that whatever blunders would happen in between, at least there would be something to see. So this is a thali set that I had designed, and I tend to use a lot of mirror furniture, especially in my space in Alibag in the country house, because generally everything around is so rustic and dull and matte, including the stone floor and stuff like that, that one wants to get a bit of sparkle indoors and start reflecting the light from around. So mirror furniture seems to work well. These are 4 stucco pieces, beautiful. So you can see how beautifully this was not carved, it was literally built by hand in 3D, in plaster, with brick and lime and plaster, and then these are fragments out of the architecture. Notice the bellies on the babes. They're rather generous, and it's a pity that today everybody wants a flat plywood stomach like a model on the ramp, because this was the idea of beauty in India, and this little belly was the sign of fertility. And this courtyard is what separates the house from my studio beyond the trees and the Dashrath Patel Museum that I run in the memory of my guru. And the mango trees form an amazing canopy over this courtyard, keeps it cool. And an interesting object of art that I wanted to show you, that there's this Bhairav wooden sculpture that I've had for the longest period of time, and it sits around on this mango tree, and I don't know if it grew out of the tree or the tree grew out of the Bhairav, but they seem to be totally in sync with each other. There's a huge banyan tree about 70-80 feet tall that also sits into this courtyard, and then you can see the southern exposure of the house, the southern side. Again, the roof and the eaves have been kept very, very low, because this is the side that brings the heat, the rains, and therefore we want to have small openings, not to let them come in.